Hey everybody, what's happening? I'm Tommy and you're on the lifeboat. How you been? Don't remember what day it is. Quibbs?
Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. And I am up again in the Ponderosa. Yorkie Mom, good to see you. Jason P, Brazy Girl, Yorkie Mom again. Tina Marie, good to see you. Jason P, how are you? Karen Pooley, love to see you. Monk Searcher, how are you? Monica M, good to see you. Tina Marie, glad you're here. There is Tamper June, Third Eye Open, I Live for Now, Bunny C, Brazy, Allison McCaff, Palumbo. Hello, Daniel McCoy. Hockey Town John's here. Kristen Melinda, good to see you. Positive Life, The Nurse Who Loved Me. Regina Padnode, Rachel. Hey, it's Anna. It's me, Anna, 210. Good to see you. Lacey Silver, good to see you. You're in my thoughts. There's Kathy Ann. Kathy Ann, great to see you. Glad you're here. Jennifer B. Crafty Witch. Hello, Jean. Jen Pookie. Finally made alive. Well, here you go. You are here. I am happy. We went really early. West Coast Fancy Nancy. Hola. Susie Fitz. I'm glad you're here. Hello, Janine K. I'll tell you what, people. I got a great email sent to me today. Great is in the that there was a ton of information and it wasn't a lot of fun to read. Mama Bear, great to see you. Lisa, I thought I forgot these until like 2 seconds before I went live. I was like, oh, man. Mama Bear, how are you? Pink Dolphin, good to see you. Rachel. AJ Speaks. But first, coffee. Hello, Susie. Mara. Glad you're here. Hello, Zelda. Good to see you. Lurker Laura, what's happening? Heifer's here. We can start. Love it. Lynn Sanity. Miss Sunrise Dawn, how are you? Sherry, Beverly, Nat B from Canada. We're rolling. All right, people, let's get this thing underway. Hello, Genuine Lee. La Chameleon, good to see you. It's me. So I got this article sent to me, and it came out of Rolling Stone magazine. And the article was about a 14-year-old boy, which right now really kicks you in the junk because I'm currently staying with someone who's in that age range. Jeremy Shelton, in fact, same age exactly. Lost Mittens, good to see you. Hey, Yorkie Mom. And this recounts, Robin Miners, good to see you. Squirrel Girl, this recounts this boy's life. And he was a great kid. He was a kid that really dug stuff like kind of like I do. He was one of those kids that from a very young age was like enthralled with all things old and ended up getting into recreations. Like he would go out to battlefields and they would recreate stuff from the Civil War and things of that nature. Hey, Tampa B. And he kind of got a little notoriety in the country as being one of the youngest kids who would go and dress up and do this. He was super into it. I read a spot from his dad talking about how when the kid met Abe Lincoln, someone dressed up as Abe Lincoln, he said, you would have thought the kid was meeting Beyonce. It was the biggest thing in the world. Hello, Kim Roy. They talk about this kid ad nauseum. They talk about him until you really feel like you know him. ASAP Lizzie, how are you? And they said he was one of those kids that was so honest that he would tell his mom, you know what? Me and, so-and-so got to third base. He was one of those kids that would tell his parents everything that was going on. So when he started smoking weed, he told them that. And when he quit and then slipped up, he told them that. And when he found himself getting high from stuff he was buying online, Hockey Town John. Hey, Admiral, who's that tasty little dish there in the background? Well, John, that would be Quibs. And she really is. Yeah, and if you move, everyone's going to leave. You better stick around. You're the eye candy. You're the eye candy. You're going nowhere. Joe Anderson, good to see you. This boy started to buy dope online. And he started to buy it on Instagram and on Snapchat. In the article, they were really hammering on Snapchat. But I did a little deep diving on the outside. And he was using all of the platforms that we've been talking about on this for years. And I catch so much hell every time we do this. Emails from people who tell me that they're ignorant, that I'm ignorant, and that this isn't going on. And it's, it's like the old, the satanic panic stuff back when rock and roll music was killing kids. It's the same kind of stuff. This stuff isn't dangerous. These kids are buying dope from people they've never met. That's what's going on. They pass around someone's Instagram page or someone's Snapchat, address. You don't even need to know the person. And that's not rare in the drug game. It might sound it, but it's not. I bought dope from people that, I called a phone number and they drove out and dropped the dope off. I didn't know who was going to arrive. Hello, Piano Mom. I didn't know who was going to arrive and I didn't care. I just knew the color of the car. They'd say, new guy, red Honda. And you'd see him looking this way. It was not a big deal to us. But God help us, it's a big deal now because it doesn't matter what you buy, you're buying the same thing. Hey, you got any cocaine? It's going to be fentanyl in it. You can bet on it, right? Because they're buying this fake crap. You're not getting blow anymore. You're getting this stuff that they're making in China that's, I mean, it does the same thing, but it's never seen a coca plant, a coca leaf. It's nothing like that. It is made in a lab to get you high. If you happen to be buying meth, you're still getting the same stuff. All of this crap is being cranked out in labs and sent over here, and it's ending up on the street. And there's so much fentanyl of it. This article ends with the boy saying that he was addicted to the stuff he was buying. He thought he was buying OxyContin. He was buying what he thought were Perk 30s, and they weren't. They were fentanyl, and they were strong as hell, and the kid couldn't get off of it. And he admitted where he was getting them and all of that. But they found him 6 hours after the overdose. And he had thrown up some blood, and it was down his front, a lot of foam, and just what every parent wants to find their 14-year-old looking like. And this were good parents, right? This isn't a kid running the friggin' streets. This is a kid living in a really good neighborhood, right? Where you think you're safe because there aren't people out front slinging bags of dope. But I'm telling you, we're in a society now that, this thing has streamlined everything. Why people don't believe it would streamline dope, right? And streamline giving the opportunity for freaks to get into your house, right? To look at your kids. This is the portal, right? To allow dope dealers into your house to sell dope to your kid. And you go, my kid doesn't have a car. They'll come right to your house. They'll meet him 4 doors down, right? It sucks that we live in an age where you have to be a detective as a parent, but you do. It's that simple, right? We live in a world and the best bet, it's going to be a real shocker to everybody here, but the best bet for all of us is to communicate with our kids and don't lie to them, right? Like the BS woman who wants to come on here and tell everybody that gummies are killing 50 people a day. All right, nobody's dying from gummies. Sorry, they're not. That's not what this stuff's getting put into. Gummies require a huge ass process to make. The extraction of what you got to pull out of a cannabis plant in order to make that stuff, adding fent to it is non sequitur. It literally makes no sense. Adding it to powdered stuff to try to get somebody hooked makes a crap load of sense. Putting the stuff into gummies, I mean, the first effect, the first time anybody eats one of those, they're going to vomit so freaking hard. You have to realize that fent, any opiate, when you get past the low rent stuff, when you get past hydrocodone, right? When you get past Vicodin and the stuff that they're giving out for toothaches, when you start getting into long-term pain management, that kind of stuff, we're talking about really, really different dope. It makes people sick, right? It makes people, reefer madness was a great example, ASAP Lizzie. It's exactly what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, when you show somebody a propaganda film where you bullshit your kids, what ends up happening is when the real threat arrives, then you're the person that cried wolf, right? Well, they said that the gummies were killing people too, right? How bad can these Perk 30s be? Because when I was a kid, it was the reefer madness thing. Yeah, they told us weed was going to make us go insane and shoot one another and, break glasses and jab them at ourselves, like all the crazy stuff you saw in those propaganda films. When that didn't happen, or the big thing too, when I was in high school was gynecomastia. Now it happens. You can smoke pot as a boy and develop female breast tissue. That's not a lie, but you got a better chance of hitting the lottery. So if you tell people that, oh, if you're a boy and you smoke this, you're going to get boobs. Well, when it doesn't happen to 9 guys, you've lied to. You know that what your parents are telling you about dope is BS. So when someone brings coke into the room and your parents said, that stuff can kill you. Yeah. And weed can give you tits. It's a vicious thing. And I catch crap for this, but you can't lie to your kids. Don't make drugs worse than they are. They're plenty freaking bad, right? We don't need to make them worse. Don't tell people weed's going to kill them because it isn't, right? Now, I wouldn't want my kid buying anything on the street, not because they're going to sprinkle fentanyl on top of it intentionally. They're not. It doesn't make sense. It's not even fent doesn't like to melt that way. It really wants to be on tin foil. It doesn't smoke, it gases, but none of that makes any difference. What makes a difference is when people, last year, we had 7 deaths from weed in the United States related to fentanyl. Look it up. There were 7 documented cases. And this is brick pot. Understand what they're doing. They're paying a white guy to drive a truckload of weed across the border. If he was driving heroin across the border, they'd have to pay him a crap load more money. And if he was driving fentanyl, they'd have to pay him even more, unless you take the fentanyl and put it inside the bricks of weed and then wrap them up. Well, when you get to where you're going, you got to pull that apart. They're not throwing out the weed. And if one of those bags gets a little busted up, they'll shake the stuff off of it. But that's literally what ended up killing people. You know, it's brick weed. It's not, again, the propaganda in this is awful because it's by people that want to help and they're not helping. The kids out there that are taking these pills are taking these pills because they don't believe they're dangerous, right? They just don't. And if you tell them, first time you take that pill, it's going to kill you, well, then you've really done a disservice because people who take these might live. If you say, hey, you know what? You might be fine the first 20 times. You might be fine the first 100 times. But statistically speaking, you're playing a game that's going to kill you. There's no quality control. If you've ever seen a pill press that is being run by a convict or a scumbag, this isn't people measuring stuff out. They're taking a big pile of powder and they're dumping the stuff in and they're doing this in a trash bag. And then they're dumping the stuff out. And we get what's called hot spots. There are parts in there where all of the dope ends up in one pill and you get a pill that doesn't go bang, right? So somebody buys a pill, crushes it up, tries to shoot it, barely gets them well. The next one's going to take them off the planet because all of the dope from that pill and another pill and another pill all ended up in one. And 2 milligrams of that stuff will take you off the planet. We got to stop lying to our kids. The false sense of security because it is a pill, Tina Marie says. And you're absolutely right. Because mom takes them, dad takes them. Hell, they got an organizer that sits on the right. Who doesn't have one of those, right? We all take pills every single day, right? It's just part of life. Just managed, just managed over Tommy in bed. Oh, so I wish I could buy gummies here in Portugal for my pain. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, despite being in a country where drugs have been decriminalized, still can't buy. Yeah, it's that's a very unusual part of the world. I'm not sure I completely understand it. People like to talk about the places where drugs have been completely decriminalized. Decriminalized is an odd term, people, right? It's a very odd term. If you say drugs are no longer illegal and we're not going to prosecute you for them, that doesn't mean you can walk into a pharmacy and start buying them. There still have to be people selling them illegally. There are some countries that do some really weird crap. So drug dealers are not in a whole lot of danger, right? You actually have to get caught handing someone a bag. Nobody gets caught dealing drugs that way. You bust the guy with the drugs. He tells on the guy that he got the dope from. If you catch somebody and he's not in any trouble, he's not going to tell on anybody. He's not in any trouble. So decriminalization, this is why when I get emails every day, I swear on everything holy I do, there's not a day that goes by, 365 days a year, that someone doesn't send me an email telling me why drugs ought to be legal. And my response, now I just send it. It's like, I don't have to rewrite it. I send the exact same response. And the same response is fantastic. Show me the plan. How do you make that work? Because someone would have to regulate it, right? Which would mean the government. The government would have to come in and then regulate the dope. And they've done a damn good job regulating everything else they've done, right? They've just knocked it out of the park. Look at what FedEx does and look at what the post office does. FedEx makes a fortune. The post office loses a fortune. One of them is run by a company. One of them is run by the government. They do the exact same thing. Why is it that the government can't make it profitable when FedEx is killing it? UPS is killing it, right? Everybody that does that for a living kills it except the government. I don't want them regulating anything that we're putting in our bodies, right? It gets real dicey. My friend's son got drugs via Snapchat, so she called the police and they didn't even know. Does not surprise me. I swear to God, every time I do a show on it, people tell me that I'm the alarmist, that I'm telling people stuff that isn't happening. I don't make this crap up, right? I get phone calls from people whose children died after buying dope I don't pull this stuff out of my ass. This is actual lifeboat experience, sadly. We lost a close friend last year on a drug overdose, and I'm not going to say his name because he has relatives who have requested that because of his children beginning to age, that we just keep his name out. But we all know who I'm talking about if you've been here for any length of time. And big love, one of my favorite people. And we lost him. And he couldn't get in to see a pain specialist. So he was supplementing methadone, right? He was taking methadone for pain from a clinic, but they were taking him up at 2 milligrams every 3 days, which is just unheard of. Usually they take you up. You do 40 milligrams, You wait 15 minutes, they give you 40 more. The next day, they take you up 40 more. Usually it's a very fast process. Apparently, they don't do that anymore. So he had to supplement to take care of the pain. The guy wasn't trying to get high. I promise you. I spent a year and a half working with this dude. He wasn't trying to get high. He was loving his kid. He was loving his life. But he was buying crap this way. This is how he got his dope. And you just don't know, right? You don't know what you're going to get. And they all look identical. And people say, I'm going to get emails on this too. Well, if they gave out more fentanyl test strips, everything has got fentanyl in it. There are no perk 30s out there that aren't fentanyl. You hear me? The only perk 30s that aren't fentanyl come from a pharmacy. Every other one has fentanyl in it. What is a test strip going to do? It's going to tell you the dope you're about to do is fentanyl. Trust and believe, most people who are getting it have already figured that out. They just can't stop because they're going to get deathly ill if they do. And they're going to get worse than I ever felt. Now, I have a hard time wrapping my brain around that, but I have done enough research to know that it is a way worse kick than anything I ever went through. Oh, yeah. ASAP Lizzie says, WhatsApp groups selling everything. This is a fact. This is a fact. They're selling things you don't want to hear about. If you think all this stuff goes on the dark web, then you're living with your head in the sand. Let me explain. If you guys understand the concept of the dark web versus the regular internet, right? I know I may be, if this is patronizing to anybody, I apologize. But I think a lot of people don't understand this dark web concept. People on the dark web don't want to be found, right? People on top of the regular internet want to be found. And there are search engines, right? We want search engine optimization. If you type in criminal, I want you to get me. If you type in cult, I want you to get my girl. The dark web is a place where there are no search engines. These are people who, instead of having a site like www.igotyodope.com, it's a bunch of letters and numbers, and it's about that long. You have to know kind of what you're going for, or you're going to go like message board, one right after the other. And that's a nightmare because the first one you click on could be images you don't want to look at because the people there are slinging the worst stuff on the planet. Things that you're afraid if you sell on the regular internet, people are going to find you. Now, there is a browser of sorts for the dark web. Most of you are probably, if you know anything of this, you've probably heard of the onion router, right? Well, you're kind of peeling layers of an onion. Well, this is the way that they use the onion router to go. Now, I have done dark web stuff. Full disclosure. I used to buy, when Silk Road was still cooking, I used to buy all kinds of drugs on the dark web and have it FedEx to my house. They would get it there. It was the most efficient way in the world to ever buy drugs. And the guy's doing life. The guy that first time he ever got busted for anything and got life in prison, which is unheard of for a drug crime, but he's doing life. Most book goes by invite on the dark web. That's correct, Nappy. Places like Snapchat, places like Instagram, places where people can trade information. What's that horrific one? I lost it. I had it a second ago. Telegram. Telegram is god awful, right? Freaks get together on Telegram and swap addresses where they can find things on the dark web. Can you buy the drugs on the dark web? You can buy drugs. You can buy child, videos, and you can buy unaliving yourself kits. Anything that you can't sell in the real world, including you want somebody removed from planet Earth, you can buy those kind of people, right? These are the kind of things people advertise on the dark web. If you are a criminal, this is the kind of website you would have to sell your type of crime. It's jacked up. It's really, really messed up. But unfortunately, it is the world that we live in. A news channel in Texas bought 100 pharmacies along the Mexico border. A little under 61% had fentanyl. I have read that. I have absolutely read that. Now, you want to hear something amazing? The street dope in Mexico got nothing to worry about. They're not letting that crap onto the street in terms of they're putting that in pharmacies because it's going across the border. Literally. The stuff on the streets in Mexico, like on border towns, guys will go into Mexico to buy dope because you're not going to get, it's just like when the mob ran New York. They weren't letting people sell dope in their neighborhoods. I promise you, the stuff on the street in that country isn't poisoning people. They don't have the same desire, I think. That's crazy to think about. Don't know how much sicker a person can get than dope sick. I used to get and still survive. I'd literally be like The Walking Dead or Melting Dead or something. Tommy Bird, I am rapidly approaching the 9-year mark since the last time that I did any of that crap. And I will tell you without a shadow of a doubt, I think about it every day. I don't think about getting high. There's no romanticizing. I don't do that crap. But I think about like not having pain. I think about that every day because I do live with a level of pain. It's just kind of, how it is. And, but more importantly, I think about dope sick. I think about it all the time. When I wake up in the morning and I go, and I take the first awake breath, my first thought is, I don't need dope today. And I don't know that that's ever going to go away. It's such an amazing feeling to wake up and not need that. I don't know that will ever go away. Shannon Smith says Whitey didn't allow drugs in Southie. He did not. You had to drive out of Southie to get dope. Whitey was pretty serious about it. And you know what? There are towns in Mexico where when I was an active drug user, I used to go to Mexico routinely to bring back huge amounts of dope. And there were places I had to go to, and one was right near Puerto Vallarta, a little town called Navarrete. And I would go down there, and there were a couple of people you could talk to get dope because everybody else was terrified to sell anything because it was so close to Puerto Vallarta, and they wanted to look like a postcard kind of thing. So they had guys that could sell little bags of weed to people that came into town or half a gram of blow or whatever, but they didn't want it to look like what it is, I guess. So we used to have to go outside of there to Navarrete, which is a terribly small town. I was telling Quibbs a little about one of those rides today. That's a fact. They don't want to poison their own, says Jen Pookie, and it is a fact. It is absolutely a fact. Sweet Tea says, I'm reading Dream World. That's the name. What was I saying? I didn't say that right. I was calling it Wonderland. I think I was Dream World is the name of it. Thanks for the recommendation. Great history to know how opiates became so prevalent. I want to tell you something. I'm not joking. There are not very many books on the opioid epidemic that I haven't read. That's the best one. Nothing else is even close, except The Silent Scream's pretty good. Or is it The Silent Scream? It's The Something Scream. I'm losing it. But the other one is the something. If you read the both of them, you literally are going to have the entire history of how we got where we are at. Zelda says, Tommy, should we be worried about generic pain pills from corporate pharmacies? Not at all. Not at all. Not in any way, shape, or form. In the United States of America, we have a absolutely bulletproof system right now. As of now, we have had nothing of any kind show up in any pharmacy in the U.S. This is the reason that what I say to people is, if it comes out of a brown pill bottle with your name on it that you got at a pharmacy, you have nothing on earth to worry about. But that is the only way that you can get pain medication, benzodiazepines, muscle relaxers, or anything else that comes in a pressed form pill. Because what they're putting this into, you understand they're not trying to trick you into taking a Tylenol that's got fentanyl in it. They're trying to smuggle it across the border. So if you got 1,000 bottles that say, that's what they're trying to do. They're not trying, or when they put them in the little candy packages, they're not handing that out on Halloween to get kids to die. They want to sell the crap. It's just a great way to get it through an airport, right? That's another thing that they do all the time. Like the press will come out and say, we just busted somebody coming through LAX and they have this stuff in Skittles packets ready to give to kids. It's scary. It's scary because if God for friggin' bid you drop one of them, right? It's terrifying that that's how they're smuggling them, but they're not doing that to try to get them to kids. They're doing that to try to sell them to adults and kill them, or kids if they got cash. I mean, they're not too discerning at this point. Happy birthday, Blessed to Crochet. Everybody, that is it's Mary's birthday. I believe she turned 29 again today. Lacey Silver, it's terrifying, isn't it? I mean, honest to God, it's terrifying. This is the world we live in. And the name of this show is, I'm getting a little tired of being right, and I'm not being a wise ass. If you go back and watch everything we've done on the opioid epidemic here on the Lifeboat. Hey, Mary, we have been talking about this And we've been way ahead of everybody. When they come out with their numbers, we always go that there's no chance in hell that makes sense, right? There's no chance. When they were saying that we're losing 60 people a day, the numbers, the math doesn't add up. They're trying to make this look like it isn't what it is. But we are in the middle of the worst epidemic we've ever had in this country. I'm sorry, that's the truth. Opiates have killed more Americans than war. Wrap your dome around that if you can, right? For the entire time we've been a country, I don't remember what it is, 26 or 27 years. In the entire time we've been a country, we have not been at war. But we've lost more people to the opioid crisis than we have in wars. There's something seriously wrong with that, people. There is something seriously wrong with that. They don't, and they're doing everything within their power to bury the numbers, which is easy to do, right? It's super easy to do. If a person goes in and has, great example. This morning, Quibbs and I are having coffee, and they released the autopsy report from this NBA basketball player. I think he's retired. He's 33 years old. And he just passed away. Somebody here probably knows who I'm talking about. I'm not much of a sports fan these days. But I'm reading the article on it, and he died of heart disease at 33. He died of heart disease at 33. Does that sound natural to you? Because it's not. In his system, right, he had tons of dope. He had cocaine, he had alcohol, and he had after 6 hours, everything is morphine in your body. If you put heroin in it, it will process it to morphine to help you get it out. If you put fentanyl in it, your body just recreates it to get it into morphine so it can remove it. So after about 6 hours, unless it's one of a couple of really interesting opiates, it's just going to test as morphine. But he had crap loads of it in his system, right? Crap loads of it. This guy wore out his heart. He wore out his system, but they're going to say that he died of heart disease at 33. Well, you're not dying of heart disease at 33. I'm sorry. Why are they burying the numbers, says Debbie P. Well, because it's embarrassing as hell to who's ever sitting in the White House. And I'm not blaming who's sitting in the White House, because the last administration and the one before it and the one before it, nobody wants it on their watch, right? Nobody wants to be the person sitting in office while we're losing 300 people a day to drug overdoses. We live in a country today that the number one cause of death from 18 to 55 is drug overdose. You're more likely to die that way than any other. They'd like that to be on maybe page 30, not page 1. Tommy, this is a day I would have stayed in bed and hid in the corner for my birthday. After my dad passed, 21 BD birthdays are hard because of Father's Day. You helped me through today with a smile. Wow. What a cool thing to say. Mary, I am so happy for you. I really am. Happy birthday. That's awesome. That really is. And I'm really happy that you found the lifeboat. I love you, Mary. Genuinely says, my daughter turned 6 on Sunday. I'm afraid for the day. I need to start worrying about that. Well, genuinely, let me tell you something. I'm not trying to bum out anybody's high here, right? But here's how it goes. The age at which kids try drugs drops every single year without fail. And now they're saying 12, right? Now, a long, long time ago, I started my drug career at 13. So we've been doing this for a long time, but it's getting progressively worse. And I don't mean 5 years every year, but every year it drops. Every year it drops. And I would start talking, if it, honest to God in heaven, if it were my kid, I would say 3rd or 4th grade, I would start having the conversations, not trying to scare the crap out of them or her, but I would let them know that there are substances out there that people use to try to alter how they feel, right? It's pretty natural. Animals in the animal kingdom that get wasted. We're not the only species on earth that does this, right? Little kids start spinning around in circles to feel different before they can talk. This is something that is in every one of us, whether we want it to be or not. Now, there are people who, for whatever reason, magically just do not seem to go the route, right? They go, that everybody's doing something, right? Everybody's doing something. There's something that we do to make us feel comfortable. But the easy cop-out method is dope, right? So we need to start talking to people about it earlier and earlier. And I hate that that's the truth, but it is, right? It is. The other option is you bury your head as firmly as you can in the sand, right? And hope that nothing bad happens, right? The not my kid. Yeah, it wouldn't happen to my kid. Not my kid. Not the way I raised him. I've said this before, right? So it's to the point where it's probably becoming cliche, but grit your teeth when you say that, right? Not my kid. Well, that's going to stop with you talking to your kid. So that when someone says to your kid, hey, man, this stuff's called meth, he needs to know what the hell the person's talking about before he hears that sentence the first time, right? Needs to know everything there is to know about it. And I don't make friends with this, but you do what you want. This is how I do it, right? And I'm blessed that my son's not a junkie and neither is my daughter. Now, Spanky had a drinking problem, right? He did. My horror has always been that he would find opiates. Seeing that his mother and his father were both addicted to heroin, that was a big one for me. But the amount of time I spent talking to my kids about drugs, I never told my kids not to do drugs. It may sound really stupid, but that's not the approach I take. The approach I take is I'm going to tell them everything there is to know about these substances. They're going to know more about this crap than they want to. And then I'm going to trust that they're going to make good decisions. I will tell them straight out the truth, right? Hey, 6 out of 10 of these have enough dope in it to kill you. That's just the way it is, right? I'm not making this up. I can show you the statistics. But on my show, I had my daughter off camera because I don't want my daughter to have to deal with any of that. But she sat and did an interview where you couldn't see her, but you could hear her. And we talked about that. And when we got to school, she's from California and went to school in California in the center of where the dope in this country comes. And I mean, right in LA. And I said, what grade did they start talking to you about fentanyl? And she said, the only person who has ever spoken to me about fentanyl was you. How's that? That was 6 months after she graduated high school. We did that interview. So you think they're talking to your kids about dope in school? I assure you they're not. Now, do I think they went in and talked to the kids? They did. They talked about weed. They talked about some other stuff. And they did the drugs are bad, okay? If you do drugs, you're going to fail out of school and, your teeth will fall out. And scaring kids into going straight hasn't worked yet. I'm not sure why we continue to do it, right? My parents told me not to do drugs. They told me that the stuff would kill me. They told me all of the things you ought to tell a kid. Didn't seem to do a whole lot to help me. What do you recommend if you've talked and they're still experimenting? DP in Tennessee, the most important thing in the world is that you never do anything to shut down the line of communication that you have with your kid. I'll give you a great example is when you talk to your kid about drugs and you say, I want to know if you've ever smoked weed, right? If your kid says, yeah, I have. The normal question is, who did you get high with? And they say, Steve. If you go, you can never Steve again. You just said to your kid, don't tell me the truth. I can't hack it, right? Don't tell me the freaking truth. I can't handle it. Sorry. I wish I could, but I can't. I'm going to go nuts. I'm going to tell you never. But if the approach was, you know what? I expected more from him at this juncture of your life. Now, here's the thing. Is weed going to kill you? No chance in hell. It's not. Sorry. It's not a deadly drug. It's not. Sorry. But you can get CHS. That's real, right? But the biggest threat is it's going to steal your ambition. You're going to sit on the couch, and when you're 55, you'll be playing Xbox in grandma's basement, right? You tell a kid that, and he goes, oh my God, like Uncle Hal. Guaranteed. I did it in schools. I went in and talked to kids, and you could watch them elbowing the dude next to him because everybody knows an uncle living in mom's basement at 55 getting high, right? These are the things but the open line of communication. If a kid tells me that he's using and he's experimenting, I want to see it. I'm not kidding. I wouldn't bust my kid's balls. Bring it home. You really want to experiment? I want to be there. That may sound insane to you, but I would be so much more comfortable if my kid felt like there's no way he could not do this. I'd sure as hell like to be in the room, right? I've not lost anybody. I've never been in a room that somebody overdosed and died while I was there. And I've brought more people back from the dead than most doctors on this planet. I promise you. I would not want my kid, anything that I could do, like the tough love stuff, man, I want my kid at home. I don't want my kid away from me, especially if the shit's hitting the fan. I don't want him anywhere but near me. Tommy, thank you for doing what you do. You are a blessing to everyone around you, including Reese. Love you, Tommy. Sarah, thank you so much. You were so kind. And I really appreciate the support, people. Jill Judd, great to see you. Jill says, thanks for sharing your expertise and your continued research for everyone's benefit. You're a great guy, and I love to hear what you refer to Reese as my girl. Warms my heart. Well, Jill Judd, I'm glad. She's my girl, whether she likes it or not. Jim Nichols, good to see you, man. Piranha Pepper, good to see you. Weed is a gateway drug, Tommy. It led me to Doritos and Mountain Dew. Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. Now, it's funny, the gateway drug thing. Everything is a gateway drug. The gateway drug thing was a really big deal for a long time. A lot of people talked a lot of shite about weed being or not being a gateway drug. Who cares? Do you know what the gateway drug is today? Pills. So when we were growing up, this may come as a shock to you, but when we were growing up, the first exposure to drugs was always weed, right? Or alcohol, but almost always weed. Because it was the one that most kids were going to have, and you could sneak out back. It was very. Now, more kids experiment the first time with pills than with weed, and it's a landslide. And you know where they get it? From your medicine chest. After they Google what will get them high, they go into your medicine chest and they take pills that you didn't get rid of after you had your teeth out. And they take 4 Loratab and they feel a buzz for the first time. Or they take an Oxy, like a Perk 30 and get wasted. And unfortunately, now they're going to look for pills that say MC30 on them, right? M30s. And M30 pills don't, if they're not coming from a pharmacy, they're fentanyl. But that's where kids are getting high. They're taking mom and dad's Valium. They're taking mom and dad's Xanax. Raise your hand if you ever lived in any adult years living in your mom's basement, getting high on weed and playing video games. I played no, because I was determining whether to raise my hand or not based on whether or not you were looking at the computer. You know what? No, I wasn't playing video games. ASAP Lizzie says, sniffing rubber cement glue. Yeah, back in the day. They've made it a lot harder for kids to do that. Thank God, because that really destroyed a lot of kids' lives, whether you realize it or not. Like people who used to snort or huff airplane glue and things like that. That was a thing. It was really a bad thing. I never huffed. The only thing I ever huffed in my life was nitrous oxide. And technically, I know that is a medical gas or whatever, but you're still breathing it in but that's the only thing I ever did. Marissa Robertson. Now I always want to say Marisa. Tommy, I know. Tommy, your support for Reese is fantastic. Your support for the people here saves lives. Oh, what a beautiful thing to say. You know what? That's good stuff right there, people. See that? This is the stuff that I mean when I say that 90% of the really incredible stuff that you get here, you're going to get here from the people in the audience. I know how to deal with the truth. I don't know how to deal with lies. There is nothing to back them up. I love that, Laura. I really do. Whippets. That's right, Tina Marie. Whippets. Jen Pookie says, we love to ruin whipped cream cans. Man, oh man. In high school, there's a place called PNC, right? The Price Champion, PNC. We would go in there and grab 4 of them, walk through the store doing the whippets. I was telling Quibbs about that the other day. She had never heard of it. No point of reference for it. Had Adderall in a locked box, and a kid snuck in my bedroom and jimmied the box. Catch this? Catch this? Piano Mama, I'm tempted to say, in that town, I'm not surprised. I'm just being funny. People, I joke with Piano Mom because Piano Mom is from my hometown, oddly enough. Question, Tommy, I've talked to my eldest that true friends won't give you grief for saying no, but do you really recommend approaching it differently for those on the spectrum? You know what? It's that's hard, Kathy Ann, and it's something I probably need to think about at length before I answer it. I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that. Sarah, I gave up caffeine a few months ago. I sleep better, and caffeine is bad for bone health. A lot of truth to that. Caffeine is not great for you. Honestly, of the chemicals we put in our body, caffeine in large amounts will kill you really quickly. You would not believe how regulated it has to be. It is a poison. We have to take it in ultra small amounts, especially when it's added to things. Like when you got to buy that to add it to recipes, like for Coca-Cola or whatever, that stuff's poison. It's like nicotine's the same way, just incredibly poisonous unless it's in microscopic amounts. Oh, Brianna Miller says, oof, dust off. I only huffed it once. It was crazy. Never again. You know what? I have never done dust off, but I have a great dust off story. So I went to high school with a guy named Jamie, and the two of us, we sort of separated and didn't spend much time with each other as we grew older. But I talked to him out of the blue. He had called me up and he said to me, "What's going on?" And I was talking to him and telling him, and I brought this up because I had been working with people that were having problems. And I said, one of the kids is hitting this stuff dust off. And he goes, "The hell's dust off?" I said, "You know, the stuff in the can with the little spray on the end and you like for getting off your keyboard or just blowing dust off things." And he's like, "You can get high on that?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, that's stupid." I said, "Yeah, it is." So about 3 days later, my other friend, and if I won't use his name because he watches this occasionally, but my other friend called me and said, "Did you hear about Jamie?" I said, "No." He hit this stuff in a store. I mean, like 30 minutes after I told him about it, he went into a store, in the store, grabbed the dust off and went and passed out. Fell down, knocked over a display full of crap. They didn't arrest him, but it was embarrassing for him, from what I understand. Third Eye Open says, we were stupid enough to bend over at the waist, hyperventilate, go upright, and have somebody squeeze down on the abdomen to pass out. No drugs yet. Oh, so stupid. Let me tell you something. Pass out hits. If you had any idea how common this is, I swear to God, if you had any idea how common this is. Now, a lot of people do it with weed. Like they'll take a big hit, they'll bend over and then do a bong hit or whatever and stand up. Super dangerous. It really is. It's super dangerous. Not so much because you're not going to come back from it, but because people fall and hit things and stupid things that kids do. I never did that. I don't know. I never did that without drugs, but I did that with drugs twice. It's really, really dumb stuff. LeBone's Creation says, I keep all my meds in a lockbox and in a big safe. It's my responsibility to keep my meds safe, opioids and other meds. If they get stolen, I'm shit out of luck till my next appointment. I take it seriously. Everybody hear that? Honest to God. Everybody hear that? If you're in pain management and you lose your pills, you're screwed. They don't want to hear that they got stolen because every junkie in the world has told them that 60 times, right? And back in the day when you could get away with it, it was worth busting out the window of your car to call the cops, especially if your script was huge. Break the window out in the same parking lot of the pharmacy. Those days are over. I don't care what happens. It is your responsibility to keep your meds in a lockbox and then keep that in safe. That's the best idea possible. Not only because of the fact that you need it, but anybody that gets a hold of it, you know what I mean? It's so, so dangerous. I remember drinking Theraflu the first time as a kid and got a hell of a buzz. It's weird that I remember that vividly. You know what? There was a long time where people were doing that kind of stuff. Lisa Trimble. Lisa, I hope your black eyes are getting better. I really do. And Lisa Trimble gifted a Lifeboat membership. Thank you, Lisa Trimble. I truly appreciate you. Why, thank you. I'll take it. I shaved that dome for no other reason. For no other reason, I'm telling you. Hold on, I missed one. We did the whipped cream cans when we worked at Baskin Robbins at 16 years old. Everybody that works at Baskin Robbins does whippets. My kid told me that too. She worked at Baskin Robbins and she said, yeah, they were all doing whippets. I said, did you do them? She said, no. But I spent a long time talking to my daughter about every substance on earth. I really have. And you know, my daughter was born with a heart condition that required 3 surgeries before she was 16. Very, very serious. And so when we were doing the drug talks, I was like, you know, this is what these drugs do, right? Are these drugs dangerous? Nah, but to you, right? Like you're not messing with things that can screw with your heart. Anything that speeds up my daughter's heart, I spent a lot of time explaining what that's going to do. You know what I mean? Because it's that freaking important. Birthday cake all around for the lifeboat. I like it, Mary. Thank you, Wendy Brewer. I'll tell you what, helping Reese is a labor of love, people. I really don't need that. Thanks for that. Honest to God, I don't. But I appreciate it. I really do. What? No, I like whipped cream too much. You can no longer get it out of the can, right? Once the gas is gone. You know what? If you knew how many times my poor parents, like my mom would take out a whip. My mom believes to this day that if you don't use whipped cream in 45 minutes, that it just stops working. because every single time we got one of those, either my brother or myself ended up killing it. Yep. You know what? He'll have no fury is wicked sharp. I mean it. I see 9-year-olds playing Fortnite, flipping out for V-Bucks, and as soon as they spend them, the rush is gone and they want to buy more. They got to be primed for drugs or gambling or shopping addiction or any other addiction. And you're ahead of the curve, right? This is the kind of thing that when you see this behavior happening, if you intervene then and take it as a freaking life lesson, instead of saying, hey, we're not going to have you do this, explain to them exactly what's going on. You felt great, didn't you? You felt a rush, right? Okay, that's dopamine. Like, explain the process. You would be shocked how much kids will suck it in. I mean, but the problem is it's uncomfortable, right? People call me all the time or email me. I can't talk to my kids about drugs. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to talk to my kids about drugs. Why? Well, because I did them. Maybe you should tell them that, right? Why is that the end of the world? If you think that telling your kids you did drugs gives them permission to do it, then you're telling them wrong, right? If you sit down and go, yes, I did drugs when I was your age, best 15 years of my life. You can't know how much fun I mean, no one's doing that, right? Unless you're an idiot. Now, I don't lie to them either. Do drugs feel good? Of course they feel good. You think people get addicted to stuff that doesn't feel good? But the payout, sex feels great. That's good stuff. Jumping on an airplane, that feels great.
What? I thought you were talking to me.
Yes, I was. Admiral, my neighbors have a problem. Fire truck ambulance pulled up, stayed 20 minutes and left after a narc shot. It's not necessary to go to the hospital. They still look messed up. Here's the deal on that. Depends on what dope they're on, Deeming. That's frightening. Now, they could have signed I'm not going with you, right? You can't drag a junkie to go with you once he's been narcaned. And the truth is, he took the narc shot. He's going out to get dope. He's miserable or she's miserable, whatever. Once they hit you with Narcan, it's really hard to get them to go to the hospital with you. It almost never happens. I mean, you understand what Narcan does? It sweeps everything out. Now, normally that would be enough. With Fent, they're going to need to Narcan that cat again in about 30 minutes. So, and there's a lot of death that happens exactly like this. I'm not trying to bum you out, but this happens every day in this country where somebody gets narked, they give them Narcan, and 30 minutes later, Fent is strong stuff, people. We're not talking about yesterday's dope. Sadly, we're really not. And I'm not trying to bum you out, but that's real stuff. I was tricked into smelling a popper. So bad and so scary. ASAP Lizzie. Amyl nitrate. Poppers. Yeah. I didn't think about that as huffing. I've done amyl nitrate too. I forgot about that. All right, maybe I shouldn't say I never huffed anything. So that's why stores lock up the dust off stuff. Yes, Kristen Melinda, it absolutely is why they lock up the stuff. Joe, that you know. Great to see you. Tell Reese to put her crap anywhere. That's right. Love my phone's jacked up, but I still watch from an app. Can't write and chat, but I'm still around and clean. Joe, I love it, brother. I absolutely love it. I was asking someone about you 2 days ago, man. Joe, so good to see you. Question, are poppers dangerous? My friend takes them all the time, and I thought they were like glue sniffing, but they say it's safe. All right, here's the deal on amyl nitrate. Poppers are killing brain cells every single time you do them, right? Now, is it gonna destroy your life so that you can't think? Probably not. But it's the reason you're getting high is less what you're snorting and more that you're depriving your brain of oxygen. That's really, with most inhalants, what you're doing is you're wildly depriving your brain. I got Bo Cephas here. Let me say hi, Bo. He's a good boy. He's a huge boy. God almighty, he's a big dog. So here's the thing, Christina, not to get too personal, but this is the lifeboat. Most people who use poppers, it's a sex thing, right? It's done very often. They're sold in sex shops. They were very, very big in the 70s and the 80s in the gay community in New York. In clubs, there would be 6 inches of them on the dance room floor. Like, they really got super out of control. They used to sell them in 100 packs in like adult bookstores. It It became kind of an epidemic, and then they started to regulate it a lot differently. They stopped with the poppers, and people started buying Rush, which was kind of the same thing. It's the same kind of a deal, but it's got like a little ball inside that you can shake around. You take the top off and take a sniff and then put it back on. Same stuff, get really hot in the face. What it's doing is dilating all of the blood vessels in the body. So it's supposed to make orgasm a much bigger deal, whatever. Yee-hoo! But if an orgasm needs to be made better, you need to reevaluate your life. That's my humble opinion on that.
I like mine.
Never take Dramamine to get high, says Franklin MC. Great advice. And don't take Hawaiian rosewood seeds either. I don't know what those are. I have no idea what those are. Hawaiian rosewood seeds? Hold on one second. This is the easiest way I do this because I'm not very bright. Because I want to look that up. I don't know what those are. I'm going to need to. Yeah, that duster stuff, Kathy Ann says, oh, yeah, it was a big deal at the schools here a few years back, and they even had an intervention episode about a duster addict. Well, I want to tell you something. It is addicting. There are people who completely fry their brain on this stuff. Huffing glue is the same way. The problem with huffing, people, is that the amount of brain damage that gets done when you deplete your brain of oxygen. When you breathe in weed, it's not lack of oxygen that's getting you high, right? THC, right, is doing the trick on the brain. With almost every drug, that's the case. With people huffing, you're killing brain cells. I mean, you're depriving your brain of oxygen. You're breathing in something other than oxygen. It's really god awful, man. And damn, I've seen some really, really messed up individuals. I've told the story on here many times before, but I had to become an EMT if I wanted to be a ski patrol. So I had to ride an ambulance and I had to do all those things. And I was riding it in Texas, and we used to pick up a guy almost every day the summer that I rode ambulance. Honestly, I bet 5 out of 7 nights that I worked, we picked him up. And he would go out and he would take a spray paint and spray it into a bag. And then he would breathe the stuff, and he would have silver all over his face from the bag. And he would just be stumbling along the side of the road, and people would call 911. We'd have to pick him up and put him in the ambulance, take him to the hospital. And it was an everyday thing. And eventually one of a crew from a different ambulance, not the station I worked out of, got angry after picking him up a bunch of times, and then went out, got him, and left him. And he ended up getting hit by a car, and he sued the city and got millions of dollars out of it because they let him out of the ambulance. And I remember that my partner said, I was doing the math. It's like 230,000 cans of Krylon. Not funny. But we used to call him Tin Man because he always had silver. It cooks your brain. It's horrific. But the things that people do to get high, you would not believe. Truthfully. We had a chroming problem here. Kids were walking around with paint on their faces. Layla G, yeah, that's scary. And you want to hear something insane? So I had a very long talk with this guy once. And I said, why is it that you pick silver? Is there a reason you go with silver? Is it your favorite color or whatever? Right hand to God. You know what he said to me? It tastes like popcorn. He's like, all the other ones taste really bad. This stuff tastes like popcorn. It was he was a terrifying cat. Franklin MC is making it rain. Like what? Quits? Like hot sauce packets. Woohoo! Yep. You're starving? Well, I am 3 seconds away from being done. I'm almost caught up. Regina, thank you. You know what? I learn enough on these lives. I'm telling you, I have so much. You're going to go dance to Fleetwood Mac? Don't stop believing. Allison Metcalf Palumbo, your 56th birthday was yesterday. You and Mary share a birthday. Happy birthday to all of the other Geminis out there. I love it. That's awesome. It really is. Well, Subi says, guess what? I'm going to be a great grandma. Wow. That is awesome. That is absolutely awesome. I think that's why my mom bought Cool Whip in the tubs. Keep laughing, Lacey. My mom tapped out. I swear to God. Like just recently, I had the conversation. She was buying Cool Whip, and I was like, "Why don't you get in the can?" And she's like, "Because those things don't work after a day." I'm like, "Ma, those work fine after a day, unless Johnny and I happen to be nearby." And you know what's sad, people? No joke. I probably would still pop a whip. There's just something about it. I know it's terrible, but when I was on the Grateful Dead, when I used to go on to see all the Grateful Dead shows, I would buy a 90-pound nitrous oxide tank, one of those really big ones, and I could get 1,000 balloons out of it. I'm talking about like this big. I used to sell the balloons for $5 a piece. And then I would go buy more balloons, and I would buy another 90-pound tank, and I could make $3,000 or $4,000 in profit in a day, giving away a bunch to get people, let them know what you got and all that. I would make thousands of dollars, and it would get me to the next concert. And that was my hustle. So I ended up breathing a lot of that crap in. So I'm not, not particularly, I'm not proud of all of the nitrous I did, but I did a lot of it. Ray, it's great to see you. Glad that you're here, Ray. Yeah, Reese hears the word sex and says, "Are you talking to me?" Yeah, that is exactly what happened. Shannon Smith says, "My sister couldn't wait to get out of the house, out of the hospital after Narcan." You know what? That's the way it is always, people. No one wants to stick around after they've had. People will swing at you. As stupid and as crazy as that sounds, if you're a healthcare professional, my God, I'm behind. If you're a healthcare professional, people will literally swing at you when you save their life because they were so damn high. Like the last thing that a person remembers is the nod. Like they went out. They were so relaxed they didn't even have to worry about breathing. That's literally how we overdose, right? So you bring that person back. He goes from that to, oh my God, like everything is out of his system. He's never been that clean. You just took everything off the receptor. Usually a junkie gets 72 hours before all the heroin's off the receptor or all of the opiates are off the receptor. So as it's getting less, you're getting a little bit sicker and a little bit sicker and a little bit sicker. And most addicts will tell you that the worst day of the kick is day 3 because all of that is now out of your system. This is your first day of really being clean. Well, Narcan does that in 60 seconds, and it pisses people off. In college, a friend of mine and I went looking for heroin on campus. She knew someone. I am beyond grateful we didn't find the person. With the addictions I have, I would be dead stupid right now. You know what? Thank God for miracles, right? That you couldn't find them. For real. If you knew how many times, man, the very first time I thought if I could go back to the day that I tried that the first time, because I was, when they talk about people being hooked the first time, that was me. I promise you, I was definitely hooked the very first time. My husband worked in mental health. This is 100% accurate. Thank you, Regina. It means the world to me. It really does. Because I am not a doctor and I do not play one. I do not play one on the internet. All right, people. You know what? I got a girl right here. I'm going to go take her to eat something and then starting to feel a little anxious. You know what I'm saying? I had a friend in college that was in the Army and he liked heroin. He was stationed in Germany. There are so many guys that came back from Vietnam addicted to heroin. I was talking about this with somebody today. His brother came back that way. I had a friend, this is a true story, who came back and the dope on the street when he got back to the United States was so weak that he re-enlisted. And the guy I met today told the same story of his brother. Stuff was really, really bad. All right, peeps. All right, thank you, Anita Card. We're going to wrap this thing up. I'm going to get this girl home before she turns into a pumpkin. I will be back, I'm sure, at some point tomorrow. Spanky is going to be going on the road, people. Lord willing, and what else?
The rivers don't dry up.
Yeah, the Lord willing and rivers not drying up and whatnot, then Spanky's going to be on the road. And I'm really looking forward to seeing some of that. I got a call to take a woman to the ER after she got Narcan and she wound up on methadone. The shock nearly killed her. Oh my God. She was also on methadone and they Narcaned her. Oh my God. Hill, I've never heard of anybody on methadone being Narcaned. That is the biggest F up on planet Earth. God help us, man. What a nightmare. Normally they don't do that. Normally, if someone's on a bunch of methadone and they overdose, they try to take them up with stuff. They don't try to take them down because you knock all that stuff. Man, oh man, there's got to be thousands of milligrams. It takes so long for that stuff to get out of here. Reese's mating call, Tommy. Yeah, something like that. All right, people, now I really am going to end this puppy. I will see all of you on the next one. I am the Admiral. Thanks so much for all the support, people. Really do love you. All right. Do me a favor too. Hit the subscribe button. We have actually begun to grow. Had a little bit of a lull, but we are growing, and it feels good. It really does. Thank you for all your help. We love you guys. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.